guys, I just wanted to say happy 50th episode. Sorry I couldn't make it on this one, but I'll definitely be back on soon. Congrats on everything, and talk to you guys soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are here. It's almost a new year for the podcast. Working on almost year 2, the end of year 1. We got big things to talk about. We are on not only finale of the NFL season, we are working on what we like to call our road to WrestleMania. I know these guys are happy. Scotty, we're sorry this week. You've been outvoted. We're talking some wrestling. We're talking some Vince McMahon. We're talking about all things and maybe some other things. So before we get going, let's talk Carl Weathers passing. Apollo Creed, my favorite Rocky villain out of all the Rocky villains. Rocky 2 is one of my favorite sports movies of all time. The ending, fantastic. Yo, Adrian, I did it. Carl Weathers, fantastic in that. Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. Most recently, Brad, Mandalorian. Carl Weathers was supposed to come to a Comic-Con in Boston recently, and I believe his last post, social media-wise, was saying that he couldn't make it for whatever reason. So, Tom, little quick deep dive on Carl Weathers. Do you know, have they announced why he passed?
All they've said is that he died peacefully in his sleep.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. What a loss, though. Predator, right? He was in Predator also.
Yeah, Dylan. I mean, that was
Dylan.
huge, you know. Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, Dylan,
That's right.
you son of a bitch. They slap
There you
hands.
go,
Yeah, it's
I mean, and I don't know if anybody read the quote about what John Madden said about years ago. John Madden, when he played for the Raiders, Andy, that should hit you right there. I believe he played in 1970, 1971, and he said, and I quote, "You're too sensitive."
Wow. Yeah. War number 49 for the Raiders. Somewhere in my plethora of collection, I believe I have a Carl Weathers Raiders card that I don't know how I got it, but I must have bought it somewhere and held on to it. Yeah, what a loss for our age demographic. Stallone put out a really sentimental post. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Sorry, yeah, it was very sentimental.
Yeah, the last time they were together on set was that, you owe me one favor, and it was that last, fight that they had where it went off camera at the end of, I believe, Rocky 3, where that happened. So, yeah, what a loss. Yeah. So, you guys want to add anything about Carl Weathers before we move on to the email segment?
I mean, let's be real. We wouldn't even have the Rocky movies. We wouldn't even have the franchise without Carl Weathers. It wouldn't have been anywhere near as good. And then they made those sequel trilogy Creed movies where, Carl Weathers didn't really have a big part in those. It's about his son, but the legacy of Carl Weathers, even in those 3 movies, if you haven't seen those new Creed movies, they are surprisingly good. Okay, if you enjoy the original Rocky movies, they are surprisingly good. So we'll probably have them on repeat tomorrow.
Yeah, they usually show them in order. Sometimes you can catch a weekend where they show like all the Rocky movies and those kind of like in a chronological order. So we're gonna move on, and real special email segment this week. Ed, you want to lead us in?
Well, first and foremost, this is brought to you by goonguard.com. Goonguard.com. Check them out. Andy's got them up. Brad's got the shirt. I'm supporting with the hockey today. Look, less than 10 seconds in the microwave, set up in your mouth, easy to talk with, that type of thing. Use the promo code 1973. Hey, guess what? Promo code 1973. Today we are going to talk about, we actually have a female fan. Can you believe it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it? I mean, good thing all 5 of us are sitting down. Can you believe it?
And it's not one of our mothers.
No. even though my mother does watch and she does chirp the shit out of me when she sees me, like, what the hell are you guys doing? But we'll digress. That's a whole nother story. If anybody knows my mother, she chirps just as good as me sometimes. So
Maybe sometimes better.
sometimes better, depending on how long it's been since she's seen you. What, you don't call? What? Yeah, you forgot about the lady that raised you, all that other BS. We'll zip it. We'll zip it on that, and we'll digress. So
it's kind of like, I think one of the last times I saw her, it was like, hey, good to see you. Haven't seen you in like 5 years.
Yeah, where you live in Texas?
Where you living? Yeah. Anyway, so GG_8113. Thank you so much for buying the shirt. I mean, she put her money where her mouth is. I mean, you can't ask that. She gives us she talks about us on YouTube. I mean, you can't ask for a better fan than that. I mean, she shouted out on Instagram. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, we actually have a real female fan. It's wonderful. Guess what, Tom? She bought your shirt, Tom. Tom, can you believe? I mean, Tom, you should be more pumped up about
that makes one.
What?
So that makes one person.
Yeah. That's one more than we had last week, guys. Come on. I mean, seriously. I mean, you guys got to be excited about this. I mean, we're actually, we can actually go like, instead of couch fishing, we're actually going for the coins on top of the couch now.
So let me add to this, and then I'll kick it to the other guys. Very cool. Very social media savvy with the post. Tag the 1973 podcast, sporting the shirt, sporting the guys. It's something that we've never gotten really something away from an email. This is the very first time we've gotten a social media post. All the people that we've dealt with, nobody's really flown our flag. So not only is it the first time that we've had somebody fly our flag for us, they've also it's been a female. So that's two positives. And Brad, Chris, Tom, you want to add to it?
Yeah, Gigi, mamacita, mira, llámame, okay? Nah, just kidding. Maybe I'll take you out for lunch right here in my brand new Pizza Hut that I just bought, No, all kidding aside. We appreciate the swag purchase, first of all, right? That's always a good thing. And just to get a fan on the other end of what we do, like, to see a female fan on the sports, podcast, and it's awesome to see. And, we like their opinions. That's why we've had Nikki on. So it's cool. It's cool to see that she's sporting our swag and liking the podcast. Thank you very much, Gigi.
Brad?
Yeah, man, I think it's just really cool. I always forget that, our podcast goes out to people besides us. So when I see like a fan or we get an email and it's like nationwide, or we had one from Ireland, right? An email?
Yeah, we're worldwide, man. Worldwide.
Yeah, Mr. Worldwide. So like, I think it's just neat that, what's kind of like our weekly hobby of, shit talking and shit posting. And then, we have a legitimate fan base buying swag and tagging us on Instagram. That's pretty monumental.
Thomas, want to add anything to it?
Yeah, now I'm going to challenge the tens and tens of viewers we have to start posting stuff like this. If you don't have a shirt, buy a shirt, a hat. Even if you don't have any of that stuff, just if you're on YouTube, take a picture, a snapshot of our little promo that we have up there, the little picture promo, and put it online and tag us in it. We'd love to see it.
Now, Chris, before we move away from the email, do you want to add to how you feel that people could kind of promote us as far as like on social media, like adding to what Tom was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of different ways, right? Facebook. I'm big on the TikTok thing right now. I've been kind of running with that, I posted something. Actually, I took a picture while we were doing the podcast the other day, and I'm putting that out there with a couple of hashtags, hoping it gets out there and people can see it. This nowadays with social media, there's social media that I don't even use, like X and whatever, Twitter, whatever it's called now. So like, there's so much crap out there, man. Just please, whatever you guys can do, get it out, help us out, would be great.
Yeah, and Chris finally made the best ofs. I just put out some new best of clips, and I just I think I put a best of episode 10 where Chris joined us. And yeah, we've got some more clips coming. I like to throw them out there every now and then, chum the waters a little bit, keep everybody on the hook, and so we get a new episode out there on the weekend. So thank you so much, ladies. Please keep posting. We're not going to post the pictures to protect the guilty, but we will enjoy the post, and we will definitely mention you and keep them coming. So, Brad, we are on the road to WrestleMania. So,
Yes, we are.
are we going to touch base on our boy Cody's journey, The Rock coming back, or are we going to do this deep dive into Vincent Kennedy McMahon? Your thoughts?
I think they're both intertwined though. Like if we're gonna talk about one, we gotta talk about the other.
Sure.
So
Sure.
first of all, it's a little odd that all this goes down with Vince McMahon and The Rock comes in to be hired on to TKO. Like the conspiracy theorist in me was like, the timing lines up so well. His daughter gets posted up and is the GM in NXT. First of all, horrible mic skills. Horrible. I mean, the only way she has a job is because of who her daddy is. But all this, rolls up, and then we're watching SmackDown last night, and then The Rock comes out, to say he's going to take on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and you could just see the heartbreak and the crushing anguish on Cody Rhodes. But he's a team player, so like he was down with it. But man, I instantly reminded me of the CM Punk pipe bomb, and he's talking about the guys that are schmoozing and getting what they want. And I was like, damn, is The Rock that guy now? Like, is he doing this to folks?
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, there's and there what I read online today was like this whole push with The Rock was because one, CM Punk got injured, which understandable. But two, they're trying to get the spotlight off of the situation with this alleged Vince McMahon situation. But what they wound up doing was stirring the pot.
Right.
When they posted this to YouTube, it was the most downvoted, disliked post in WWE history.
Right.
Well, what are they doing?
There's been so many memes this week with the thing about Triple H giving him the Sada suit back and said it's funny stuff, very funny stuff.
I saw that.
Before we go any further, I want Ed to do a disclaimer for us, like he always does. Ed, what do you got?
Look, this is all allegedly on what we talk about. This is
For entertainment purposes only.
This is for entertainment purposes only. This is all opinion. This is not to be taken seriously. And honestly, this is just one of those things where everything that we talk about is all allegedly. And this is not something that we are looking to create controversy. We're just talking about what we've read on media outlets. And we're pulling facts from what we've read from multiple media outlets on everything that we talk about tonight. Whether it be Vince McMahon, whether it be about the junior team in Canada. So we are treading very, very lightly on this. We are taking these serious. These are very serious allegations, and we just want to have a very open and frank discussion about this. And we do not want to have any legal repercussions from this because we're just a bunch of friends that we are just discussing about stuff that we are passionate about, whether it be wrestling, hockey, and just general life stuff. This is not meant to be serious, but for the five of us, wrestling, we all grew up with it. And it's something that we all have a huge passion for. So this is everything that we say is all allegedly, and we are taking this very seriously because this is a very serious allegations for everybody involved.
So as far as the media goes, Tom, am I correct by saying that it is become a federal investigation?
Yes, they are. The federal investigators have interviewed the girl. I won't say her name, but
Right.
the girl and a few other people involved in it already, I guess, and a few other females that I guess from back when originally when Vince McMahon had left WWE. I guess this is
Allegedly.
all gone. Yes, allegedly, and they're all tied in. And I guess the feds are trying to tie it all up into a big bow, I guess.
So there's two ways I can hit this. One, I'm going to start with, do you remember back around Christmas time, Jericho's alleged allegations came up about him having groomed girls or a girl that left AEW. And it seems like this is a pattern going forward with a new movement with, let's say, sports entertainment and Hockey Canada, as allegedly. So that's kind of what started this whole thing rolling. But rewinding back a little further, right before the merger, they had let Vince McMahon come back to do the merger. Now, if these things were known and they had him come back to do the merger, where he had left abruptly before that, now there's a more, to the story. This story is very, very layered, and it's going to lead to a lot more things coming out, which, if you rewind back, what I found ironic about the whole thing is the ascension of the WWF started when Hulk Hogan beat the Sheik. Follow me on this, because it's kind of crazy. When Hogan beat the Sheik, it was January 24th of 1984. That's what started Hulkamania that night. This was dropped on January 24th, 2024. 40 years to the day of the Hulkamania win. So it's like the irony in it is Vince had a 40-year untouchable run of the whole empire. And isn't it kind of crazy how it just worked to the day? It's almost like it was all like pre-planned out. I mean, you can't write it better than that, right? It's just nuts. So the whole Vince McMahon taking over for his father, he bought his father out with money that was in the WWF at the time. So he actually bought his father out of the picture when he was actually physically ill. Vince Sr. was coming down with cancer. It was 82 into 83. The first thing that really happened going into 83 when Vince really owned it was Jimmy Snuka was on top. The alleged Jimmy Snuka incident that was covered on Dark Side of the Ring with, was there an alleged cover-up where the police allegedly bought? So right from Jump Street, there's been stuff allegedly that's been going on. Now, fast forward from those two bullet points in the late 80s, there was you can go on, I think it was on Phil Donahue or one of those shows with the Ring Boys scandal. You guys all know about that, Brad? We were talking about that. So I'm going to bring up bullet points and then we'll hit them all back again. Then in the early 90s, there was the steroid scandal with the federal indictment on the steroid trafficking when that WBF was World Bodybuilding Federation around that time with Lex Luger and all that stuff. Hogan came back into the picture. They called a bunch of guys to the stand. A lot of people, tiptoed around that. Then right before, about a week or two before this, Kevin Dunn retires out of the blue, who had been with Vince right from the early to mid 80s with Coliseum Home Video. He's been with Vince all this time doing all the production, but he retired a week before all these alleged allegations came out. The only thing that I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this, who knows what and who is going to say what? Because if you don't know and you can't say, but you can say, and then there's perjury, there's no, it's not like 92 where you're going to be held accountable when you go back to work. Now, there's no accountability for saying what you got to say. Nobody's going to come after you. What do you think? Brad, Chris, chime in.
Chris, you go first.
I mean, all I had to say about this Vince thing was I was completely shocked obviously. I mean, he's got the money. He's gonna do whatever he's gonna do. But like, I think the first thing that came to mind for me was this dude could never show his face again on a WWE product, episode, show, whatever it may be, which is just shocking. I mean, I was one of those guys at Raw, and I was doing the whole bow down when he would come out to the, you know what I mean? And it, I know you're not a Vince fan, but I always was. You know, I think like just his persona, his character. Again, I grew up in that Attitude Era, so he was a big part of it. So it's just shocking for me knowing, and all these text messages that came out, and like you read them, you're like, holy shit! Like, I mean, this stuff's pretty legit, you know. So pretty crazy about that. One thing I want to touch on The Rock real quick about him jumping the line. This guy, I'm not the biggest Cody fan, okay? But again, The Rock, go back to your movie studio, all right? I'm going to turn this belt sideways, Rock, and I'm going to stick it up his Rudy Poo candy ass in a minute if you don't get off WWE TV. Go back to doing what you were doing, Rock. Let the professionals do it. You're a has-been, buddy. Sorry.
Hey, you got here's I'm gonna add a little comedic side of it. You got The Rock with Oprah, you know, talking about saving Hawaii, and then you go to Stone Cold's Instagram and he's floating around his ranch, Broken Skull, with his cat poncho, getting all kinds of likes from that. It's hilarious to see Stone Cold hanging out with these two cats, Lefty and Poncho. It's great. It's like two total opposites. Like one guy's all about the limelight, the other guy's like, call me if you need me. I'll be doing my cold plunges with my cats. It's awesome. But Brad, what do you think about this whole thing with the text messages and all that deal?
I mean, have y'all read the text messages? I'm gonna save them for myself. I don't want Mama AC to have to hear that vile language if she listens to this podcast. He seems like a deranged 13-year-old or just a super, super horny 13-year-old got a hold of his phone. I mean, just the way he was texting is like, I mean, it looked like a kid. Like, I don't know if he's suffering from CTE or like some something. His brain is just mush, the stuff he was saying, but it's really unfortunate that the way this stuff went down, but there's so many other layers. I mean, going back to the Ring Boys and that alleged cover up there where Pat Patterson was supposedly molesting little boys, but they're saying that even Vince's wife was involved in this alleged cover up. Come back up to this one with Janelle Grant, they're saying that she knew about this too. Like Vince even mentioned in one of the text messages, hey, my wife found out. We got to chill for a little while. So like, there's more than I think at the end of the day, when the dust settles, it's going to be more than Vince McMahon. They're saying Shane McMahon may or may not have known about it, which is why he kind of pulled back from the company. He may not have known about Janelle Grant, but he knew of his father's depravity to the point where he was like, I don't want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
And again, I think The Rock and Triple H and Stephanie knew of this or situations similar. And I think those three probably worked together to get Vince out these last couple weeks so they could bring in The Rock and make some more power moves. But even if overlooking the Ring Boys and the thing with Janelle Grant right now, Rita Chatterton. Go Google Rita Chatterton if you don't know who that is. She was one of the first female refs in WWE. Guess what happened with her, fellas? Paid for sexual services or was supposedly paid for services or tried to be exploited. And she was basically propositioned and promised success.
Yeah.
Sounds like Janelle Grant situation.
Yeah.
Like Vince, this isn't a one-off thing.
It seems like a pattern. She was if you go back and look at, she was one of the first, if not the first, female referee in the WWF back in the day. So there's a lot of things. I believe there's maybe a story with Mike McGirt. You can look at her story too. I think she has a shoot interview out, which she talks about a couple of different things. But I'm more interested in all these stories and who has stories and who's repressed them and now has the voice to, or, you know, to say it. The Shane thing is true. I've got to mention that in the bullet points where, you know, they imagine that allegedly your dad wants to bring you into this circle of stuff going on and you're married. He was married already. I don't think he had kids yet. And, you know, just imagine that, you know, like a almost like a boys club type thing. And you have to distance yourself and, you know, buy me out. I'll go stop my own stuff. And so that's crazy. When you look at some of the promos and some of the things that start popping up now, and it kind of makes you wonder about, you know, the wrestling storylines. The best storylines are the ones that blend almost where believability ends and the storyline starts. Those are always the best ones. But I mean, if depravity is kind of what you're going for, I mean, Tom, I don't know if you saw this, but this is actually one of the things that popped up recently. Stephanie was on one of the WWE documentaries, and she said that there were only 2 storylines she ever said no to. And do you know what one of them is? When she was pregnant for one of the kids, Vince came to her and said, "What about if we go on and say I was the father?"
Oh.
I mean, just think about that. If it's anybody has young children, just think about that. I mean, just put these into context. If you have children or if you've ever been close to somebody, you don't do the Shane thing. You don't do that Stephanie thing. I always thought that their relationship, even on TV, was a little, how can I put it? A little weird. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Tom, what do you think about this whole thing from, you know, your side of it, being a lifetime wrestling fan?
It just shows you that he's got so much power and he had so much control and so much money. He had nobody there to tell him they were all yes men. Nobody there to pull him back and tell him, or try to pull him back or say no when he, some of these things that he allegedly did, like showing emails and text messages to people in the back. And it's just shows that the more power you have and the longer you go with people doing stuff that you ask or tell them to do, I guess you just keep going because you don't expect anyone to say no. And makes you wonder.
Thomas.
What's that?
Power corrupts.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder what would have happened if, would they have forced him, what's the group, RKO or TKO?
TKO.
Would they have kind of forced him out if Slim Jim didn't back out of their sponsorship right before the SummerSlam? I mean, Royal Rumble. Would they have actually come out and done something and kind of forced him out? Or would they have just kind of swept things under the rug? And it just makes you wonder. And then talk about, when you're talking about, Andy, about people and what they knew. And I don't know if you remember, I don't know what season it was, but Terry Runnels was on Dark Side, and she told a story about Brock Lesnar and some of the stuff he said to her. And Dustin Rhodes was her ex-husband at the time, and he basically told her, "Oh, just let it go," and just just brush stuff aside. So it makes you wonder if anyone else will come forward and what else has gone on.
Yeah.
So here's the irony, though. Brock Lesnar is married to Sable, who accused Vince McMahon of you know, depravity, assault, whatever. And now Brock Lesnar, he's done. Like, they've removed, he was supposed to be in the Rumble, replaced by Braun Breaker. They discounted all his merch on WWE Shop. He's removed from all future endeavors at this point until something comes out and says otherwise. But the irony of him being married to somebody who was accused Vince and now was you know, involved in this circle somehow. Like, this is just wild. This is mind blowing. And AC, you said it, 40 years he's been at the helm, right? And right now we're seeing this because people kept receipts because of technology. What happened before and in between when we didn't have receipts? Like, what else is going to come out? Who else is going to be implicated besides Brock? You can't tell me Brock is the only one. There's no way.
No, what's not to say that there's other guys over the years that he's used allegedly, Ed, that tool to get guys to sign there. I mean, has he had people on the payroll before that are specialists with that side of things? Well, I'll wink at the camera, negotiating contracts. Has he had people that have done that professionally? I mean, look at I forget who had said it, but until they get Bruce Pritchard out of there, he's still like Vince's avatar for moving, manipulating behind the scenes and things like that. But if there's people that are there that have seen or been, I know Johnny Laurinaitis got caught up in this whole deal too, but what about his other confidants that have been close to him too, that has he brought them in too to kind of keep them, as part of the we'll say the alleged club? Now the guy that's going to get off scot-free because he passed away a year or two ago is Pat Patterson. He was close to Vince for years. He was like his right-hand man as far as like writing stories and coming up with finishes and all that other stuff. So is they going to hold the ghost of Pat Patterson over the coals? I don't know. But I mean, all this stuff is going to come up, and all it's going to take is one person to stand up there and tell a story, and it's going to open a floodgate. Or is John Laurinaitis going to be the guy to rat on Vince? Now, from what I'm reading, he's saying that he was part of being a victim too. So is John Laurinaitis going to be the guy that's going to flip on Vince just to save his own rear end? It's like it's like a Hollywood drama right here. So, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be televised. I don't know if it's going to be stuff to watch, but I know, like, as far as, being a lifetime wrestling fan, it's definitely, I mean, the biggest story I've seen in I don't know how long. I don't think has there been a bigger story yet?
No, I'm just going to say it like this. I mean, so this is allegedly how I think it would play out. The thing about it is, dead man can tell no tales, right? So the thing about it is that everybody circles the wagons, and guess who takes it all? Pat Patterson. He's dead. He can't say anything to anybody, right? So the thing about it is that the thing about this. So to Andy, your point, like 40 years to the year, gee, that's such a coincidence now, isn't it? Allegedly, right? Coincidence, right? The thing about it is that, like, and then just kind of going back to the talking points. Well, funny story about Cody. How many times did Big Dust take it and like, no, it's about making money and like extending the story. So bottom line is that, guess what? This is all part of the big master plan about, taking it down the line. Like, they brought back Rock for a reason. I mean, Rock is the most electrifying sports performer, entertainer today, Chris. So I mean, and the thing about it is just like, but it all comes back to is just that, honestly, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the bottom line is that, honestly, if I was a lawyer, which I'm clearly not, everything's getting pinned back on Pat Patterson, and because the thing about it is that he's dead, and they're going to pin it all on him. And honestly, that's what good lawyers do, allegedly.
Well, the guy that he's had for years, Jeremy McDivitt, no longer his lawyer. So we'll have to see. They broke, and imagine the stuff that guy knows. Imagine the stuff, because he's been his in-house personal attorney for years, but not now.
But here's the thing, though, it goes back to attorney-client privilege. He can't say anything.
No, I get that.
He doesn't in it. So there you go.
Yeah.
So do y'all think this stuff with Jericho, because I went on kind of a dive with that, no real accusations of nobody's, other than some Reddits and some Twitter, threads, there's no raw, nobody's really accusing him yet.
No.
But he has been called the Harvey Weinstein of the wrestling universe. So that's pretty accusatory.
Yeah.
But did he learn because it sounds real familiar. This
Right.
gatekeeping strategy. Maybe he learned that from Vince.
Yeah.
I mean, what do y'all think? Allegedly, right?
Well, I mean, my thing with Vince is I was never a fan. I mean, he's the guy that killed my love of what pro wrestling was, and it's tough to get it back. I mean, his I'm gonna tiptoe real lightly on this one, but here's a guy that allegedly uh, might have or might not have shit in somebody's hair, but yet you won't let the guys get the blade out and have a cage match. That
I shouldn't be laughing.
but just think about it.
That's a great point, man.
You got a no blood policy, which is a deterrent for me with my storytelling in wrestling. But yet you'll do depraved stuff like that allegedly if you read the stories. And
he's out here dropping number twos.
Yep. So yeah, just yeah,
deuces.
Yeah, deuces. Tommy?
Yo, we should ask Vince if he's a thumb in or thumb out guy. The people want to know.
Right in.
If Vince is anything like me, nobody's gonna tell me how to get off, and obviously no one's gonna tell him how to get off. So he's definitely got to be a thumb in guy.
Bro, nobody told him at all. He was like, "Hold up, your boy got a Duke real quick, so here we go. No, y'all keep going, but I'm doing this."
Yeah, wait a minute. I'm getting kind of sweaty. Let me go take a shower. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder,
hell, man,
if the deal they just reached with Netflix could be in jeopardy with everything that's going on, even though he's left. I mean, it still gives them a bad name, and they have, even though they've never been like, a lot of this stuff hasn't been proven in the past. They've got a reputation of being a seedy place. So
I'm gonna tell you, Vince should have been canceled in the '90s after the Ring Boy scandal dropped. Like,
yeah,
the man's a survivalist, if anything.
Oh yeah.
Quick question to the panel, please.
Yes.
Is it serendipity that he sold to the UFC? He got rid of creative control. I would never see Vince ever getting rid of creative control ever. Is it just me, or I just think it's like he almost knew that this was coming and they had to jump ship? No?
I think people in the know knew about this and that wanted him out. It just seems like corporate warfare. Like, somebody's like, "Hey, we're going to leak this. We're going to get this out to the press. We're going to get rid of him. We're going to move on with this deal with TKO. We're going to move on with this deal to Netflix. We're going to move on with this." I think it was probably only leaked because it was a corporate warfare strategy, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know if Tom agrees, but when Nick Khan came in, they brought him in. I think he peeled back the layers of the onion with the budget and where money was going and things like that. And then I think a red flag, maybe somebody alerted him to it. Maybe it was somebody on the inside saying, "Hey, listen, maybe you should look at these payments that he's making." But allegedly, going back to what we were talking about with the territories, he was allegedly, well, this is probably public knowledge that when he bought the Calgary territory, it was Stu Hart's territory, and the LaBelle's territory, which was the NWA in Los Angeles, when he bought those two territories, he had agreed on money. And then into the payments, he just stopped paying. And allegedly, this is where the payments came in, that he had people on the payroll that he was paying, say, X amount of money, and he stopped the payments, not even paying out in full. So, I mean, there is a track record of nobody's going to tell me what to do kind of thing. So, the plot thickens. I think that as for me, the devil's, kind of getting his due right now. So, I mean, I'm worried for the point of, like, say, Triple H. Did he not know all this stuff was going on? He's in the family. Did Shane not know this is going on? Did Stephanie not? Are all the people that have kind of, as long as he's not bothering me, it's okay? Are they on the hot seat too? Is that some with the way companies are run now? Do you let them stay when you call them to the witness stand? Are they gonna be telling 100% truth? What do you think? If you got Stephanie on the witness stand, do you think she's gonna throw her father under the bus? What do you think, Tom? Do you think she would do that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, she could plead the fifth for all we know. I don't really know. I don't really know what to say on that one. I mean, that's a tough question. That's something that she'll have to wrestle with. And
Oh, I like that. I like what you
no
did
pun
there.
intended.
Right? I like that. Good one, Tom. Yeah, so anything more to add this week on that, or do you think we should move on to other things?
I've got one thing, but it's not about that. It's actually about Roman Reigns and The Rock.
Oh,
If they're not careful, they're going to have what happened in the Brock Lesnar Goldberg match in WrestleMania a few years ago, where the crowd turned on them and booed throughout the whole match. And I mean, The Rock is really good on the mic, so he could probably turn it around. But they're in that territory right now where the fans, like Brad said, it's the most disliked clip in WWE history on online. I mean, so they have to be careful with that.
See,
I'm
I
gonna
think
tell you,
This goes
when-
back to Andy's point of
What's
last
that?
week. So this goes back to Andy's point of last week. It gets you right up to that edge. It gets you to question everything. It touches that nerve right there. So guess what? The funny thing is that you bring The Rock back, and like with Cody and all the things that his family's done in wrestling, because Big Dust was all about, oh, you want to pay me this? Okay, fine. I'll do it. Whatever you want, man. This is what's going to make us the most amount of money, I'll do it. So guess what? I have a funny feeling this is all part of the plan. Brad,
Yeah,
sorry to cut you off, man. I'm sorry about that, man.
no. I was gonna say, to Tom's point though, when The Rock came out, they did their whole spiel and they hugged it, and Rock said something nice to Cody's ear, and Cody left. He looked like he's gonna cry. As Cody left, he walked out on The Rock's entrance song. Like, they kept it playing, right? Strategically, because if the people in the crowd had the same reaction I had at home, yeah, first of all, super excited The Rock was out. I saw a Facebook post that said he was spotted in a gym in Birmingham. So I was like, there's no way he's not going to come out again on SmackDown. And then he did. And I was super stoked. And then he started talking. And then Cody left. And I was like, no, stop. Don't do this. But they played him out to The Rock's music, and it was so loud. I think if they had not done that, people probably would have started booing right there in the crowd.
It touched that visceral reaction that they want. And I think that's great. That's great theater right there, you know?
This is either going to go down as like a complete bust, or Triple H just pulled one of the best moves in booking that we've seen in the last 10 years.
I think good old Paul, I think he knows what he's doing.
I'm excited either way.
Okay, so a couple things I want to touch on with that is, so the Roman Reigns thing, the long-term storytelling, I think, to Ed's point, and with the way people are now with instant gratification, I think the longer it takes for Roman to lose that belt, the more it pushes people's buttons, because people want instant gratification. So any long-term storytelling rubs people the wrong way when it's done right. So that I love. I totally love that. It gets us talking, right? It got Chris going with The Rock coming back.
I mean, maybe picked by a Pizza Hut. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so it's working. So let me talk about the Cody thing. So when Cody was on Stone Cold's podcast, he has the Winged Eagle title belt hanging with the Smoking Skull title. And he said it's all about that one right there. That's the one. And he pointed to the Winged Eagle. He says it's his favorite belt, in his opinion. The look of it, what it means, that's his favorite belt. What I would do, he has fantasy booking. You ready, Ed? Ready? You love these.
I'm ready. I'm buckling in. Come on.
So he beats Rollins, right? Eventually, he works to winning that one champion, combine all three belts into one, bring back the Winged Eagle, one champion, but two shows. It goes to my point, one champion, one Stanley Cup, one Lombardi trophy, There should only be one. There shouldn't be two. The champion should be like a traveling champion going between two shows. That's the grind. You're the big dog.
Yep.
No pun intended with Roman Reigns, but you're the big guy. You're the heavyweight champion. There's no more territories, but you got to appear on both shows. Whether you wrestle
Make money, man.
Yep, it should be one champion going back and
That's
forth
right.
between the two.
That's right.
In one roster. No more double rosters. One roster.
I agree.
You want to keep the
100%.
keep the IC title on one show? I'm good with that. And the US title on the other one, that's fine. But one champion going between two shows. Get fellas, prove me wrong.
No, that I haven't read that somewhere that could possibly be something the riders are going for or whatever. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, if you want to talk it in a sports based, if you want to bring wrestling back,
Flow Bill.
yes,
Flow
not just
Bill.
that, but you got to tell the story like all those guys are in it for a championship. Like
Yeah.
everybody is in it to be number one. It's like that in pro sports, so it should be blended into the storytelling with the wrestling. Why are you here? You're here to just eat an apple and spit it in somebody's face. That's what makes you money. No, it should be about winning matches to be the guy, right? That's why they all go through the grind of coming up through NXT.
But it goes back to like when Hogan was the champion in WWF, back when it was WWF days, and like they were all pushing to get him, and they could get him to wrestle 2-3 guys at this, and like they'd kind of like bounce him around, right? And so that's what made him such a great champion. That's what got him so over, right? Am I wrong? I mean, like, and that's the thing about this. And like to go back, Andy, to your point about Flair, like to use Flair as an example, Flair traveled. He did everything. He deserves the title as like what 17 times,
16,
right?
16.
Sorry, 16. Sorry,
16.
16. Sorry. Anyway, I was off by one. All right.
Tom, 16,
But-
right?
What?
Just getting a confirmation from the professor.
But my point being is that like if you bring back some of these older things from days in the past,
Nobody would know it, Ed. You could
That's
steal
my
all
point.
that stuff and nobody would know it.
That's my point right there. Nobody would remember it because they don't understand the slow build anymore.
Right, right. Well, the formula used to be with the WWF versus the NWA. The NWA always had a heel champion because they were the guy that came in and skated at the end. They would come in for a week, put your biggest baby face over for a chase, and then at the end, he just didn't have enough. But it left the baby face after the champion left as even hotter because it was always in the chase. The money was in the chase. But the WWF was always opposite. Feed the champion, feed the champion. They would have heels come in, and then Hogan, or especially like who was great for that? Like Bruno. They bring in guys for Bruno, bring in guys for Backlund. They come in for 3 months. It'd be 3 Madison Square Garden shows. Boom, boom, boom. And then at the end, the blow off, Bruno would beat him or Backlund would beat him. That's why everybody hated Bob Backlund when we were kids, because you couldn't understand why they bring in these monster heels and nobody would ever beat the guy. And it was like he was so wishy-washy. But the formula also back then is you had to have the belt on somebody that legitimately you couldn't take the belt off of in a shoot. You know what I mean? Like take Harley Race. He would go everywhere. There was no way somebody was double crossing him and get the belt
No,
off.
I mean, Flair talked about like he's actually popped guys' eyes out of their skull.
Oh,
I mean, because that's what Harley Race was.
yeah.
He's legit dude, man.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's why they put the belt on Backlund, because they wanted somebody, whether you liked him or you didn't, that nobody could double cross in the ring. I'm just going to hold this guy's shoulders down and win the belt on an MSG show. No, didn't work like that. So wrestling's changed. So yeah, I guess.
I think it's time to switch subjects, Andy.
Yep. And with that being said, Thomas, Ed, we got some special things this week. We've been talking to our buddy Joe, new friend Joe, I'd like to say, and Ed and Tom. Tom, bring us in. Ed, lead us into the interview.
Alrighty, Tom Shitty Picks is brought to you by Brock Street Brewing Company, located at 244 Brock Street South in Whitby, Ontario. The brewery is home to a banquet hall, an on-site restaurant, and a members-only lounge. Everything they brew is done in-house, including sours, lagers, and their vodka soda. They have something for everyone. So if you're in Whitby, go check them out and tell them 1973 Podcast sent you.
Ed?
All right. Here we go. Joe Lyons, Massachusetts. Great guy. I went to college with him. Andy, what's the name of his company?
It's 350 spin. Or
There we go.
Spin 350.
Spin 350. Spin 350. Come on. It's Joe Lyons. For all my people that went to Bridgewater State, it was DJ Snoil. Great guy. Man, he's done some really great stuff in Boston and nationally. We had the honor to talk, Andy and I, and Chris had the honor to talk to him for almost 60 minutes. Just great human being. Talked all about what he did for his company. Just, man, I was so glad to have him. I was so happy to have him on. So great to reconnect with him. So, Andy, we're going to roll it from here. Andy, we're going to kick it to you.
We're going to drop it in right here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode, special interview with our pal. Well, I'd like to call him our pal, Joe Lyons from 350 Spin. And we got a lot to talk about hopefully a lot of branding, a lot of advertising, and a lot of things that maybe could benefit us. Probably a lot of people that watch maybe benefit you. So we'll start off by letting Joe take the floor and tell everybody all about his stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. So I'm a creative director, which is kind of like a different way of saying an art director. And in the design industry, it's kind of like the person you hire that comes in and has the vision of how something should look, as opposed to like a graphic designer who might say, well, tell me what you want it to look like and I'll make it. All right. So I started off as a graphic designer, started my own company 23 years ago, and just kind of worked my way up in my own company, working for myself, giving myself some good promotions. So now I'm a creative director and absolutely love what I do. The company is Spin 350. Yeah, reversed, but Spin 350 Creative. That kind of comes from everyone asks what that means. So I have a background in music and DJing, and that's the spinning. And then 350 was just always my favorite number, but I could never have it on any of my sports jerseys. I was always 35 or 50. So when I was younger, I said, someday I'm going to have my own business and I'm going to put 350 on the sign. So when I started the company, I said, well, I have to do it now. So I put those two together and, came up with something unique that there's not going to be any other Spin 350s. So that's where we are today.
Very cool. Very cool. Ed, you want to start with some questions for your Joe?
Sure, man. So take us, start us off from where it began at, Bridgewater State College, Bridgewater State University now, where you and I met. I mean, let's take it up. I mean, it's funny story. Joe, funny story. When you hit me up on Facebook, it's hilarious. I never knew what your first name actually was until you hit me up on Facebook like 15 years ago. I had to scroll through Facebook and I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, I know his face. And then I had to scroll through. I saw some of your DJ stuff and I was like, it's Snoil. Oh my God.
That's funny.
They never called you by your first name ever. And I knew you for 3 years. I never knew what your first name was.
That's so funny because you're not the first person to say that. I'm like, well, that's kind of funny. I mean, a lot of people have nicknames, and I never realized that. I guess I went by the nickname, which you're saying is Snoil, which is Lions backwards.
Yeah.
So Snoyl. But yeah, so God, I mean,
man, go dive deep, man. We have a long time, so talk about yourself.
Yeah.
Man. This is exciting stuff. So take us from there.
So
talk about your Eminem days, the stuff with Mike G from the Beastie Boys. Take us from there, man.
Oh, I wish the Beastie Boys. So the background, kind of the cool background story is that I always knew I wanted to do something creative. I just didn't know what that meant. Right. So when I went to high school in Brockton at Cardinal Spellman. Anyone from the Mass area knows Brockton. And while I was going to high school during the summers, I went to art school. I went to the Art Institute of Boston. Used to take the train in and go to the art classes. So by the time I graduated and went to Bridgewater, I had already done a full semester of art classes. So about 2 weeks into the semester, they said, hey, you have to drop your art major or you'll be here 5 years. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be here 5 years, I want it to be because I'm slacking off, not because of a technicality. So I said, all right, I can't be an art major. I'll be a communications major, which is what everyone does when they don't know what they want. So I became the communications major, which ended up being great because I had developed this interest in music. And well, I always had the interest in music, but I developed an interest in DJing and being able to mix one song to the next song and being able to take the vocals out of a song and put them over a different song. It really interested me. So I showed up at Bridgewater with my 2 turntables and
a microphone.
And a microphone. I had this ridiculous, like, I built this thing on wheels that it looked like if you ever go to like a wedding and the DJ has like a setup that like pops open. I had built one of those, which was very large and bulky, but it was on wheels. And I remember wheeling this thing into the dorm room, and my roommate freshman year was like, what is going on here? And that's what I did. I played with my music all day, kind of taught myself how to DJ. Some kind of dumb luck, just by chance, I ended up at the college radio station. Went up there with a buddy who had an internship, and the person whose show it was never showed up. So I said, oh, I know how to use this equipment. So I said, let's do the show. And the station manager called me the next day, and I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I shouldn't have been touching anything. And he said, hey, do you want a show? And I said, okay. And I think my first radio show was like a midnight to 2 a.m. on a Sunday. It was something silly. But that kind of got my foot in the door because it was being able to express my artistic side through music. Right. So I really loved doing that. I was the only person at Bridgewater who had a show for 4 years. I eventually became the music director. And that's when stuff got real fun, because as a music director, you start getting invited to shows and they're sending backstage passes and you're getting invited to sit in on studio sessions. That's how the whole Eminem thing happened.
That's so awesome. Man.
Yeah. So one of our mutual friends, I don't know if you knew this, Ed, but Kim, who's Shaggy's wife now.
Okay.
Kim had a car, so I didn't have a car, and I was like, hey, can I borrow your car? And she's like, yeah, what do you need it for? I'm like, well, I'm going over to my friend's house who's got a studio, and Eminem's gonna be there. And she's like, shut up. And I was like, no, I guess I don't know what the plan is, but they invited me to come over and kind of sit in on the session. And she's like, okay. So I always told her, I was like, yeah, and like we were hanging out in the driveway, and Eminem was sitting on the hood of your car. She's like, oh my God, that's amazing. But it was kind of cool. He was an interesting guy. Spent like 4 hours in the studio with him. Just kind of, we were interviewing him. He was freestyling. He was wasted. Just getting tons of good audio. I rented one of those huge camcorders from the media services department at the college. And I filmed the whole night on a VHS tape. And the next day, before I even watched it, I put it in the mail to a company that was doing a documentary, and never made a copy. A couple weeks later, they call me. They're like, when are you going to send the tape? I was like, I sent it. You didn't get it? And that tape has been gone.
Wow.
Ever since. So if that ever turns up, it's going to be pretty cool, because it's just hours of footage of Eminem in Boston, and it's just having a good time.
That's awesome, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the music side of things kicking off at Bridgewater.
That's awesome. I know Andy's there, so Andy's gonna want to ask this question, because I mean, look, him and I, we're big Beastie Boy fans. So I mean, so take us through that, how that worked out and everything like that. Because I mean, you did some stuff with Mike D, right?
No, the only connection there was Mixmaster Mike came to Bridgewater.
Okay.
For Springfest.
Okay.
That was cool, because I got to be the opening DJ every year at the Springfest concert. Right. And that would have been, I think that was my senior year. Run DMC came, Mixmaster Mike. Yeah.
Okay, that's my mistake. Sorry.
No, that's I wish I had gotten to be on stage with those guys.
Yeah, because that could turn into a bunch of other Beastie Boys stories.
Yeah, man, I miss the Beastie Boys.
Oh, don't we all? Don't we all? Not to segue away from that, but great documentary that the two remaining guys put out a year or two ago. Great watch.
Yeah, on Apple.
Yeah, that's a great watch.
That was really good.
Man.
Music's changed a lot. You know, I was kind of at the end of a generation of actual turntable DJs with vinyl. Everything transitioned into at the time it was Serato. Now there's like a mix of things, but you'd have one record and it was an MP3 encoder. So you'd have the record on the turntable and you could scratch and mix and do all the things, but you never took that record off and changed it. It just fed the music into it. And I've never used it in my life because I kind of got out of it right around that time because I was doing mixtapes, and mixtapes used to be a huge thing. And now everything's digital. But I actually had I had a distribution deal with a record label, and my mixtapes were like all over the world. It was cool because I was doing this while I was in college, so it was great to have that income and be able to see my stuff in places. But then everything started getting weird with piracy and copyrights, and then everything switched, like the whole Napster. And I kind of stepped back and was like, well, what am I doing? Am I I'm doing all this fun stuff with music, but I was already kind of getting burned out because by the time I was a senior, I was DJing every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And even after I graduated, I still DJ'd for a couple of years. And I think all it took was a few nights where I was DJing in Bridgewater at the old Bogarts, and then I'd get in my car. I drive to Saugus and I DJ after hours from like 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. And I'm like, this is too much. Because I'm like, am I going to be doing this when I'm 40? It's probably not. So that's when I decided to kind of phase out the music and get back into design, which is where my real training was. So I said, I'm gonna see what I can do. I went back to school to kind of get the graphic design, web design certificate. Right out of college, I started working for an architect. My godfather got me the job. I worked in the mailroom making copies, and I was back in school, right? I was taking these classes, and I set up an appointment with the CEO, and I said, hey, you guys don't have a graphic designer. You should hire me. And he was like, what? Who are you? He's like, go get my mail. But he gave me a chance. He said, you know what? He said, yeah. He said, let's create a position. And this was in the summer of 2001. And most of the clients that this company had were in the Middle East. So 9/11 happens. It's just the economy tanked. These guys had to start letting everyone go. Of course, I was the first to go. So I only had a real job at the real world for like 2 months. So now I'm thrown out into this industry of designers and marketing people. And I've never really done marketing, but marketing people were trying to get all the graphic design jobs because they needed to get back to work. So I'm this guy with no experience in an economy where the bulk of the people that got laid off they were writers, they were designers, they were all the people related to marketing, right? Because when the economy tanks, people invest in sales. They don't worry about the marketing stuff or the design stuff. They just use what they have. And they say, we just got to, move the dial here and we'll worry about design later. So I didn't know what to do. I went to some staffing agencies. I was figuring out what I needed to do. And they said, we've got a client in Cambridge that needs help with an email campaign. I had never done an email campaign. I was like, perfect, I can do that. So I took the train out to Alewife, which is the last stop on the Red Line. And I go in and I sit down with these guys, and he's like, we're trying to send this email to everyone on this list, but we don't want everyone on the list to see the other emails. And I was like, you mean like a blind copy? He's like, what's that? And I go, you paste it in here. He goes, oh, awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate it. And I was like, that's it? He's like, yeah, just tell the staffing agency you were here 8 hours. And I was like, all right, well, you want me to do anything else while I'm here? And he said, any chance you know how to do graphic design? I said, as a matter of fact, I do. And he said, well, our graphic designer that we've always used just moved to England because her husband took a job over there as a teacher for 6 months. So we were trying to figure out what we're going to do. He said, you want to come back tomorrow? I said, sure. Came back the next day. And this was WR Grace, which is the same company that had all the issues, and they did the movie about it with John Travolta, but this was their construction division. So I was doing ads for construction products. Like, can you do packaging? Sure. Can you design logos? Sure. They ended up keeping me so busy that they said to me, we can't hire you because of the headcount. We're going to pay you, through the staffing agency, as long as we can. And I said, well, how much do you pay in the staffing agency? Because I'm only making $16 an hour. They said, we're paying them 30. I was like, all right, well, why don't you just pay me 25? So I got a great raise. They got rid of the staffing agency, and then they were my first client, and they kept me so busy that I eventually hired 2 designers under me. And they said, you want to hire people, you project manage them, we'll give you all the work for the US, Asia, and South America. So I was cranking out hundreds and hundreds of projects for these guys. And they kind of catapulted my, me starting my own business. And that's how that started. When I speak at schools a lot, and students say, what path did you go? And my path is so non-traditional, because I didn't get a degree in graphic design and then start working at an agency and then eventually start my own thing. Right? I had a communications degree. I went and worked in a mailroom. Then I had a position created, and I got bounced into a temp job that turned into a consulting gig, which turned into me really just starting my own business. And it's such a non-traditional path.
But I think, Joe, that sounds like a lot of people, though, because I mean, if you remember me back from college, I mean, I was a phys ed major, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I did an internship at the VA, and then all of a sudden, there I was working for the largest beer, wine, and liquor wholesaler in New England. And all of a sudden, 2 years after that, it was like, yeah, you're pretty good at that. Why don't you come up be an account manager for the largest import in the country? And I did that for 4 years. So,
awesome.
I think it's one of those things where everybody kind of, you're kind of like, that it's kind of like the thing from Forrest Gump, with the feather in the wind. You just kind of sometimes you have to kind of go where the wind takes you, and I mean, I never thought in a million years I'd be living in the South doing what I do now. So, I think it's that. I mean, I think would you pass that message on to the young people? It's like, look, you got to jump on opportunities that are given to you.
You figure out how to make it work.
Ed, you worked at the VA. I thought you told me you worked with VD.
No, I went to the VA. No,
okay.
I think you got I think you got one of the letters confused, Andy.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm slow.
Yeah,
so
maybe you got hit in the face with with one too many of the rubber bands from the golf balls.
I think so. Yes. So Chris, any questions for Joe about his business or anything?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Joe, Chris, nice to meet you.
Hey, great to meet you, Chris.
Yeah, man, I'm goon number 4 out of the 5 that are regularly on the podcast. So these guys brought me along. I love doing it. It's good times meeting people. It's good stuff. So I was just curious. Obviously, you've done so much stuff between Swayman, James White, Eminem, which we already mentioned. I know you've done a lot of work for like colleges, Northeastern University, Harvard. The music video for Jesus also for a country songwriter.
Right. I didn't work with Jesus, but the song was called Jesus.
Yes. What was your favorite thing that you've done like all time as far as like experience wise, and what about it like really made you invest like everything you had into that specific project?
Yeah, it's tough to pick one. I recently did some math, and it came out to over 6,000 projects I've done over the years. Now, I don't mean full scale. I mean like pieces of project, right? Like a logo, and then a website, and then a this. There's so many, but I would say at the top of the list, a couple that come to mind. You mentioned James White from the Patriots. He took over. It's cool how things come full circle. So he took over the Mayo Bowl, which was Gerard's like bowling fundraiser, which raised money for pediatrics at Boston Medical Center. And when he took it over, they needed, they needed the event branded, and they reached out to me. And I almost messed it up because I remember I was at Subway getting an egg and cheese, and the phone rang, and I'm like doing this, and the girl saying something about it's a nonprofit event for James White. I'm like, James White and the Patriots, and she's like, we're trying to find somebody that can turn around the branding, and you were recommended. I said, okay, awesome. And then I said, let me give you a call back. And I never got her name. And I realized it was like a no number. Like I was like, so I ended up figuring out and following up and being like, hey, yeah, I'm definitely interested. And this is a nonprofit project. So let me kick back, half the budget and donate it back. And she was like, that's amazing. So my favorite part about this project was I got to design the logo for the event. So all the players, had the logo on their shirt, and it was on the step and repeat. So when Brady showed up the second year, I got, okay, so Brady's with James White. They're standing in front of the sign. I'm like, that's my logo, like right over Brady's shoulder. So that was, for me, that was super cool to have, my work in a photo with such a legend.
Absolutely, man. That's super cool.
I mean, that was a game changer. And I loved doing the nonprofit stuff. I try to do a bunch of nonprofit projects throughout the year. I just worked with Mass Fallen Heroes for their golf tournament. I've worked with, Dana Farber, as many as I can, as many as financially as possible, right? Because you got to pay the bills.
You got to eat, man, don't you?
Got to eat. I have two little mouths.
So sorry, that's the sales guy coming out to me, Joe. Yeah, you got to eat.
That was probably my favorite. I think my second favorite was Bostonia Public House. These guys were like, we want to build a restaurant that has a pre-prohibition Boston vibe, and I was like, all right, let's do this. So, I did a super old school, 1800s look and feel. Printed the menus on old brown craft paper. Their business cards, I made them, were made out of wood. I did the bar taps, and that was a super cool. And if you ever get to go to that spot in Boston, it's super cool. Subway tile, big tall booths. And then just recently, Bryan Cranston and Aaron
from Breaking Bad.
Yeah. They were there like promoting their tequila. So I'm like, those guys are in front of my logo. So I love that stuff, to be able to see these people with my design work. So those are probably my two favorites that I can think of for client projects. Right. So what I ended up doing, and sorry, I feel like I'm just like,
no,
this is about you, man.
No, it's all about you.
This is
awesome.
you.
All right,
this has something to do with us. We're just
that.
ad-libbing to you, man. That's how we're doing.
All right, yeah, because you guys are gonna have to cut me off at some point. Because I get so excited about these things. What was it?
We have a countdown for that, Joe. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'll get an alert when we're running late, but that's fine. But pause that right there, because whether we make a connection or not, or Ed, we'll have to work on something, but we're on a shoestring budget here. I'd love to hire you right off the rip to do something for us, but just to get a extra amount of Zoom, I had to make a kitty for these guys just to kick in for us to get extra time. So
I'm glad you guys have the paid version of Zoom, because I don't. So this would be a 30-minute call.
Well, we had an interview that got cut off at like 29 minutes and 59 seconds, Joe. And it was kind of rude. The guy was awesome. And this guy, Sean from Skate Weights, he was awesome. And all of a sudden, we're talking at the end, and all of a sudden, it was just like, boom, gone, And so
it's funny, like,
the executive decision,
As a small business, it's like, where can I squeeze pennies, right? And I'm like, do I really need to pay for Zoom? So like whenever I'm like, emailing clients, I'm like, yeah, just send over a Zoom link and I'll put it on the calendar. I'm like, hopefully they're not like, no, you send it. And then I'm like, no, you send it.
No.
But so Chris, to answer your question, or I guess I did answer your question, but what I was going to say is, when I started Spin 350, it became, this is my studio. I have such one of the hardest things that I've ever had is how to explain what I do, right? Because I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a branding guy. I don't own an agency. I own a studio. I don't have a team. I do everything on my own. So it's kind of like a hard sell sometimes, because people are used to, we'll come in with your team and we'll go over it. And I'm like, just me. And then some people are like, oh, it's just you. But then they realize, oh, well, you're the one that did the, all the work we looked at. Okay. And then they look at it different. But when I started Spin 350, I didn't know what it was going to be. I had mentioned when I was consulting, I brought on a couple freelancers. When I had the opportunity to buy this studio and stop working with that one client and say, I got to take this risk. Like, I knew what it felt like to be laid off and to kind of have everything pulled out from underneath you. I said, I can't have this one client. I've got to have another plan. So I said, I've got to open a studio. I've got to remove myself from Grace. As grateful as I was for all the work, I said, I can't be there every day because it's preventing me from going out and meeting people and finding other clients. So I'm going to open a studio and I've got to raise my rate. So they could have very easily been like, it's not going to work out anymore. And then I really would have been screwed. But I felt like I had to hire those freelancers as full-time employees. For some reason in my head, I was like, well, I've got a studio. I need employees. What ended up happening is I no longer was a designer. I was a sales guy. And my job was every day to find enough work for my employees to do. And I was like, this sucks. This isn't what I wanted. I don't think I ever wanted to be running a business. I just wanted to work for myself. So things kind of fell into place after a 2-year divorce and a lot of things that I was like, you know what, I got to let go of the people I have. A couple of them left. I had to let go of a couple. I said, I'm going to start over, just me. Spin 350 is just me. I'm doubling my rates. I'm only taking on better clients where I can do less projects and make the same amount of income as if I did 3 times as many little projects. Again, another risk, but without taking that risk, you can't really get to that next level of that sustainability, because it's really hard to, having a business like mine, it's 100% service based. I'm not selling a product where I can just make more. So the commodity is my time, right? So I've got to put enough value on my time where if I'm working a full week, I'm covering everything and being able to pay myself. So that's kind of how Spin 350 came to. But what I started to realize is, as much as I need the Spin 350 work, sometimes my passions were in the other stuff, the music, the collaborations, the like shooting that music video. And it's a different audience, right? So what I did is I said, I'm gonna start a separate brand called Every Day is a Canvas. And the reason I came up with that is because I wanted to kind of separate, like, Spin 350 Creative is my design studio. And this is where I work with Harvard, and this is where I work with like Bristol Myers Squibb and MIT and all these like big brands. They don't necessarily want to see like pictures of me and Eminem giving the finger, right? It's like
Right.
a totally, and I don't want that either, because I'm like, how am I?
Not great branding, Joe.
I need to separate, right? I need to have 2 brands.
Right.
So I was watching Craig Sager receive the Jimmy V Award at the ESPYs. One of the best speeches I've ever seen in my life. And in that speech, he talks about, at this point he didn't live much longer after that. And he was talking about fighting cancer and he had said, one thing I've learned from all of this is that every day is a canvas. It's an opportunity for living, for loving, for learning. And I said, wow, I said, that's kind of how I feel, because whether or not you're an artist, you kind of have like every day you get to start over, right? Every day is a new day where you can, clean slate. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. You want to do something positive, do something positive. You want to get out there and try something new, try something new. So I was like, let me put this together as kind of like a movement, I guess, in a way. So I started up every day as a canvas, and that's where all of these cool projects are coming from. Like the projects I mentioned were Spin 350 projects, but all the other stuff is every day as a canvas. It's, like you mentioned, Swayman. That was kind of a cool thing where I did a limited edition print for an event that was, with the Bruins Foundation, and the guy putting it together said, can you make 10 of them and number them and sign them? And then we're going to sell them at the event, and then Sway will sign them. So like, that was super cool, but that wasn't something where they like reached out to Spin 350 and said, hey, we have this thing that we want to hire you for. That was more of me being like, let's do a cool collaboration. And they were like, right on. Right. So I love doing those projects because that's where the passion is. When you spend all day long doing this like corporate rebranding and designing data sheets, and it's very tedious. And you have to be on, like if I always try to explain it as when you're a writer and you're just kind of staring at the blank screen, like, how do I start this story? The work I do, I'm on average around 20 to 25 projects at a time is my sweet spot. So it's like, all right, I'm going to start this story. Okay, I'm going to start this story. Okay, I'm going to continue on this story. And I bounce all over the place with all different projects. And by like noon, I'm exhausted. And as I'm getting older, I'm like, I don't know how long I can do this, because I'm kind of getting brain burnout.
Hey, great ad feature for Dunkin' Donuts for that spot right there.
I quit drinking coffee.
Oh no!
But
okay.
but what's funny is I drink twice as much tea.
Okay.
So,
Hey,
So
quick
that's-
follow up, Joe.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, just a quick follow up.
Yeah.
You touched real quick before about, having a couple of mouths to feed. Obviously, clearly you're a busy man. You got to, go out there, be a go-getter. Do you find like that balance sometimes difficult, making sure you make room? Of course, my kid, I have an 11-year-old, most important thing in my life. Obviously, my wife. Are you able to work out like a good balance where you're like happy with, the attention you give to your kids and family and so on?
Absolutely. When my kids are 5 and 7. When my 7-year-old was born, I said, I'm going to be home every day at 5. I grew up, had a great relationship with my dad, but I had a dad who was gone 7 to 7. And he worked real hard for our family. He didn't retire till he was 78. And I really missed out spending a lot of time with him. We spent plenty of time together on the weekends, and, every time he did projects, we were, listening to the Pats on AM radio, working out in his workshop or whatever. It was great. But I kind of made that commitment 7 years ago, and I've stuck with it. And as a single dad, I mean, the time that I have with my kids is the time I have with my kids. It's hard to have the schedule of, bringing them to school. So their school's 3 towns away. So I drive them to school. I get back home. It's 9 o'clock. I leave again at 2:45 to pick them up, and then I'm done for the day. So my day is like 9 to 2:30. In that time, I've got to get 8-10 hours worth of work done. So there's a lot of times, like, tonight, if I wasn't on with you guys, I'd probably be working on some client work. I was doing some before we jumped on. And that's just, me figuring out how to make it work, because I've got a commitment to my clients to get my projects done. But that kind of works its way back to me, because I've got a commitment to my kids to make the money from the clients to give the kids what they need, right? So it's like it's kind of like a weird, I'm not having a rough week and being like, well, it's all right. When I get paid Friday, we're gonna hit the grocery store. It's all right. Well, if I don't get this shit done, I'm not gonna get paid Friday or whatever. I don't have a routine paycheck. I'm waiting for this client to pay their invoice, and I still have to, figure out how to take care of the bills and the mortgage and all this other stuff. So it is stressful. And I think you have to really have the stomach to work for yourself. I've definitely had many sleepless nights. I've definitely had many nights where I second guess whether or not I can do it, because I don't think I have a business mind. I'm also, I'm kind of I'm a creative, right? So I'm introverted. I've forced myself to get out of necessity. But there's been plenty of people who have worked for me as subcontractors or whatever that I would never put in front of a client because they couldn't have a conversation, because they're just super creative, nerdy, like let them just do their work and don't have them talk to anybody. Sometimes I wonder if that's more me. And then I have to jump on the phone or a Zoom, or not so much now, but go into a boardroom with all these people who are decision makers on this huge project, and I've got to sell them on it. All the while thinking to myself, if I don't get this project, am I going to be able to pay for my kids' soccer? Or am I going to have to figure out so it is stressful.
But Joe, I have a question.
Doing what I like, that's the thing.
But Joe, but the thing about it is that to sell yourself and something that you're passionate about, it's that heart-mind connection when you sell. I mean,
right.
So like, if you're really passionate about yourself, I mean, it makes it really easy. If you really believe in your product, which, funny story, when you're selling yourself and you're selling yourself, I mean, you have to believe in your product. I mean, that's sales 101. So that kind of correlates. And so, coming from a sales guy to you, I mean, that should kind of just say, man, it really shouldn't be that stressful, because you're selling yourself, which it's easy because of the work that you do.
I don't think the stress is selling myself. I think the stress is, am I going to get the project?
Got you.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
And there's always that.
There's a lot of people that do what I do. And it's getting harder every year with, I've got to convince people to pay me a premium to design their logo, knowing that they can get their logo done for free from about 50 websites.
Right.
Right. And it's like,
yeah.
I'm not too worried about AI. AI, in my opinion, I mean, the train's left the station, so it's not like we're going to fight against it. It's going to go away. So I think the people that are going to survive, that are in my industry, are the people that figure out how to utilize it, which is what I'm doing. I use it every day, not for design stuff, but for the tedious. There's so much of the work I do doesn't have to do with design, right? Like if I'm building a website, I'm getting, 5 different Word documents, an Excel spreadsheet, and 2 PowerPoints. They're like, here's our content, right? So I'm using AI to organize stuff like that, and to proofread and to rewrite stuff, the content side of things. And then obviously I have to go back and check it, but that's saved me a lot of time on the tedious stuff. So you just have to figure out how to adapt. And I think you have to be able to say no to people. That's kind of something that I've had to learn as I've grown, is, everybody thinks that graphic designers like do it for fun. Like, oh, I've had people say, hey, I've got this great project for you where, you can design a logo for us for free because it's going to look good in your portfolio. And I'm kind of like, trying not to be a jerk, but I'm like, I don't need help with my portfolio. Why aren't you taking serious what I do? Like, this is what I do for a living. And, that's always a challenge, because everyone thinks they're a graphic designer, and everyone thinks that their input is good input. So there's certain projects that aren't good projects. I say no to friends a lot of times. There are obviously I help people out when I can, but working with friends and family sucks. So
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And the thing I like about the interviewing, I don't want to use the wrong term, small business.
I'm a small business.
It's that kind of connection that you make as your journey through uncharted waters. You learn things and you talk to people and you surround yourself with people that if you have a question about, hey, how'd you do it? I'm so enamored with the whole story of how somebody created a business, worked for themselves, got away from that middle class rat race that we all get caught up in because it's so easy just to get that paycheck every week, and not to spin this away from your story, Joe. But I started this podcast with the hope of turning it into something bigger because I saw so many podcasts that I had listened to, and I said, wow, I can do better than that. I'm fun. I'm funny. I know funnier guys than these guys. I have better stories than these guys. Why don't we just get together once a week and start talking about what we like to talk about? Because we're not close anymore as far as seeing each other like we did when we were kids growing up. So let's stop like that and let's just make a half an hour every week and start talking. And then it's built into something. And then we go from there. And now, I'm looking to build it more as a hopefully business someday where maybe I'm generating an income, monetize the website or the YouTube channel where I can give these guys something back and say, not only thanks for your time, but come along on the journey with me and let's meet cool people. Let's meet like-minded individuals. It doesn't have to be a celebrity every week or something like that. Let's meet people that think just like us. Let's go on other people's podcasts and make connections. And so I totally love, your journey and your story. And I'm a dad of these guys know I'm up. I do everything pretty much with the podcast and I'm up to here. I mean, I went from Vermont last week to almost Connecticut in a weekend and still met these guys for an hour and got it done. And so I know about the running around with, I have a 10 and a 12-year-old and they're both super involved with hockey and I coach. And so I get the struggle. I get, and I'd love to be able to serve everybody, help. I'd like to start a business where I could take a ride with everybody that I truly love and take them on a journey with me and nobody would have to work anymore and we could all just, hum along. But, it's great just, making a connection that, I never even knew that Ed had a connection with you. And I just thought we were interviewing somebody new for the podcast. So it's a great story. And I'm totally zoned in when you're talking about intricate details of how you did this and that. So
awesome.
Go right ahead. I'm with you 100%.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me because this is just like, when you work by yourself, you're not taking breaks, going out and, talking to your coworkers and grabbing lunch with your coworkers. So it's like, oh, people want to talk to me. That's, it's awesome. It's also hard finding people who, a lot of people are just, I hate to say it, but there's like a lot of dull people out there that aren't interesting. so when you're able to, watch a podcast or listen to something or sit down with people and throw around these ideas, it's great because it kind of gives you some hope that there's actually still people out there that are interested in things.
Yeah.
I see, especially with little kids, and you get it, like you see kind of like where things are going and you're like, does anyone go outside anymore? Does anyone go places anymore? It's just
don't even get me started on that.
Yeah,
Joe.
we can talk about, I can talk and Chris can talk from a coach's perspective, how kids have changed just with their attitude towards an adult. I mean, you got to be a Gen X guy. So that whole Gen X mindset, like you were talking about your dad, I spend a lot, you can ask Ed, my father was almost like everybody's second father or actual father. So, we had respect for everybody. I mean, if you were outside playing, and you were in somebody else's yard, you had, or God forbid, you went into somebody else's house, which you were never invited into. That was like every family's fort. You might go in there to get, a drink of water or use the bathroom or something like that. And you were like on your tippy toes, because if you got in trouble there, you got even more in trouble when you got home, because there'd be a phone call home. And so you get, twice as much. And neighbors policed each other. They policed everybody's kids. And, you didn't, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. That subject comes up all the time. Like in my personal life, being an older guy, I mean, I had my kids at 38 and 40. So, I am just over the 50 mark. We're all, and this year too. So we're all just hit that 50 mark. So our perspective on everything is always Gen X. It's changed a lot. I mean, some things for the better. I mean, like with Corey checks and things like that. So there's no weirdos hanging around. But I mean, look, when we were growing up in the 80s, all the, child abductions and things like that, how that's changed and how that's policed for the better. That's a better thing. But everybody, going back to your original point, everybody learned how to do everything outside. You learned how to deal with people. You learned how to make friends. You learned to how to solve your own problems. Not everybody ran home and had their parents fight their own battles for them. I mean, you got in scraps. You fell off your bike and you didn't run home and it wasn't the end of the world. You take I hate to use
you smash somebody's dirt bike into a tree and event in front of Derek. I mean,
so we rode bikes with no
Sounds personal.
sketchy ramps, all that stuff that people don't think. We were feral. I mean, we went outside, like on summer vacation, you were outside all day. I mean, I say this all the time to people that don't understand it, and these guys will, and you will too. The biggest punishment was you couldn't go outside. Now you can't get kids to go outside. You punish them by saying go outside and do something.
Yeah, I don't. It's terrifying to have little kids and try to figure out like, well, how am I going to do it different when it's how everyone's doing it now?
Right.
It's like, well, I want to make my kids stay outside and not let them in. And I'm like, are the neighbors going to call the cops on me?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, let's get in the house. Like, yeah.
Some of my bigger fears are having somebody that's got a cell phone, because neither one of my kids do, and they're showing them inappropriate stuff that I had to find in the woods when I was a kid that were, like an old Playboy or something like that, and they're showing them stuff on their phone that they're not age appropriate just because they have, some kind of access to something they shouldn't have. That's a parent's fear. Things that we had to be over 18 to see, or you had to sneak around. Oh, somebody's got something that, it was a thing. Now it's not a thing.
Do a whole episode on why kids today are screwed.
Yeah. I mean,
we can talk about how great Gen X is. It's true.
Awesome. I see these TikToks all the time, and people don't believe the Gen X perspective. It's like, we were built tough. Well, I think we are officially, sorry, Chris, we're the last generation of really, really tough, common sense. We were grown outside, and that's it. Both of the parents.
What it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think
that's what happens when your grandparents went through the Great Depression and went to war for 5 years.
Yeah, and volunteered for it, Ed. There was no draft. They volunteered for it. Yeah. That's the thing. But Joe, I'm so glad that Ed had you come on the podcast.
Joe, now it's your time, man. You got a 90-second plug, man. It's your turn. Tell it contact information.
Okay.
Like how to get in touch with you, like good projects coming up, stuff like that.
All right. So before Joe takes us home, I just want to say that I hope that we can make a connection going, forward, that we can, have Joe on from time to time, talk about stuff, talk about, whether it's, maybe Joe can make a podcast appearance and just shoot the shit with us, or we'll work it out, Joe. So I just want to say from us, especially from me, I'm very happy that Ed reached out to you and we made a connection, hopefully, and we can continue. I always ask everybody that comes on that it's not just a one-time thing, that we can continue to grow together. You're probably way ahead of us, but I'm just saying that, as Gen X guys, we can make that brotherly connection and take it forward from here.
I love that. It was great meeting you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yep. So like Ed said,
come hang out, talk Bruins, talk whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that this after the Bruins game. So
Joe, you see the logo in back of me? We're not talking Bruins. That's America's team. Yeah, everybody that comes on here, it's gonna bash and throw it in my face.
Don't worry, Joe. We used to running them off.
Did you know they won in overtime tonight? I don't know if you.
I don't follow AHL teams. I watch real sports.
Love it.
But anyways, not all kidding aside, fantastic, Joe. We're gonna wrap it up. We're almost at 11 o'clock, so let's bring us home with everything that you do and where people can reach out and get in touch with you and what you got going on. So take it away. Take us home.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys. So I would say that the best place to see what I'm up to is going to be on Instagram, on Every Day as a Canvas. That's where I'm putting content the most. If you're interested in seeing what I'm doing kind of on the corporate side with my business clients, that's going to be spin350.com. And as far as what I have going on right now, I just did a really cool can design for a pina colada drink with Bruno Mars's rum company.
Sweet.
The rum, really good. So that's coming out this summer. So look for that. It's called the Selvaray Skinny Pina Colada in a can. And then as far as music, I'm trying to think if I'm doing any. Well, so I may be doing a Biggie music video with a remix that I did. That's kind of in the works right now, but it's halfway done, so that could be coming out soon as well. So a couple fun projects, but yeah, definitely Every Day as a Canvas, and everydayasAcanvas.com is curated projects, kind of like my favorite projects and projects that people have asked me to put out. So that's another place.
All right.
And then JoeLyons.us is everything I do in one spot. So that's the Spin 350 stuff, the Every Day as a Canvas stuff, speaking engagements, the nonprofits I'm involved with, everything in one place.
All right.
Awesome.
So, Ed, are you ready to wrap this up?
I'm just going to say, hey, this is a big Tony's goodbye. Thank you, Snoil.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
just
Joe.
stay on when we kick off, man, when we sign off, okay?
You got it.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. So, with that being said, I want to talk a little bit of Team Canada, Thomas.
Yeah, we can if you want.
Okay, just a little sprinkle. Five guys on the hot seat, right?
Yep.
Allegedly.
Yeah, they're all charged. Allegedly, they were all charged this week. They are on different aspects of the case going on, and we'll know more tomorrow, Monday, because London, Ontario police are having a press conference, and it's also expected that the NHL will come out with a statement of their own. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, the quick little things here and there that I've seen is they don't know what's going to happen with the guys, if they're just going to release them, from their contracts and kind of let them kind of swim for themselves. Kind of, once again, Flyers goaltending, you know how that goes. Pelly Lindbergh situation, can't get it done right. It's a sad state of affairs when this stuff happens. And, if there's got to be more to the story than just the obvious. And I just think that one of the things that I read, and it's kind of, I hope it's not true, but every year when you, Chris will know what I'm talking about, every year when you sign up to play hockey, you have to register with USA Hockey, and there's a fee to be part of USA Hockey. Correct, Chris?
Yep.
Okay, so you register your child, and there's a fee. They give you a number that you have for ID for registering for different teams and whatever. Hockey Canada does that too. So supposedly some of the money that was given towards the settlement was paid for by the money that the parents had put in for their kids to play Hockey Canada. So I hope that's not true. I hope that's not where the money came from for certain things, because that's not at the core what it's for. So that kind of made me a little bummed when I heard that that the money had come out of that, let's say, pool. So there's more to it than meets the eye, and it's always sad when these things come out. But now, like Brad said, there's a lot more carbon footprint with social media and things that get recorded. And I'm just glad that I grew up in a time where things weren't so recorded. Right, Ed?
I agree. I'm going to take it from here. And so I'm just going to go on like what I've read about the situation. So this happened back in 2018. Okay. And I want to say this first and foremost. Like, look, whatever happened, it really is a terrible situation. Okay. And there's really no winners here. Okay. And the thing about it is just that is first and foremost, there was a settlement that did happen out of court. We're talking about young men and one young woman. No matter what happened, it was a terrible situation, and there's no easy way out of this. And the thing about it is that my biggest problem is that here we are now. We're 6 years later, and we're diving back into this. And like there where there's smoke, there's fire. And Hockey Canada has not exactly been known, allegedly, to be transparent about how they handle things. And I will say this: the Sheldon Kennedy incident. So we already have precedent here of how Hockey Canada has handled things. And I kind of have a problem with this. And Andy, Tom, we go back to there was an incident at allegedly at a university that was close to us at UMass Dartmouth, that kind of was like this.
Eesh.
And so it has that kind of same feel to it, and it's ugly and it's gross and it doesn't make me feel good. Like, and the thing about it is, it's like, this is supposed to be like hockey, and it's supposed to be like something that, like, when it comes to the men's side, this is something you're representing your country. From the women's side, it's the same thing. Like, for the women's side, you're representing your country, and it's supposed to be great. And to have like all this other kind of like disgusting kind of like mess that goes on, it doesn't make me feel good. Because the thing about it is like, for the five of us, like, look, Chris, I don't know you as well as I know Brad, Andy, and Tom, but like sport, like, we grew up doing that. That's something that made us feel good. And what's going on right now, it doesn't make me feel good, and I don't feel like and I just think it's bad. And I don't think that this is what, like, youth sports, even at the elite level of juniors, on what it is. Andy, Tom, we all know what like elite level juniors is all about. Not that the three of us ever played it, but like, they're special people, and it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
Tom, Chris, you want to take any
First,
Yeah, I mean, this hits home for me. It's again, you guys know how I feel about hockey. It's the greatest sport on earth. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you disagree. You're wrong. You're wrong, Brad. I'm sorry. You're wrong. It's just such a normally classy group of guys. You hear about tons of crap that happens all the time in football, basketball, baseball. These guys are always in trouble, always getting arrested for one thing or another. This is not something that really comes up in hockey much, so it's kind of a shocker to hear this going on. And yeah, was like in another country, these guys celebrate whether they win a Stanley Cup. I know Canada won, and just hearing about, like, allegedly she was coerced into consenting to these videos and stuff. Like, if there's videos out there and stuff, these guys are screwed, and figures it had to be a couple of flyers out there, what else you expect, Andy?
One, only one.
Foot. What about Foot?
Nope, not a flyer. Tom,
what do you mean?
No.
His dad, I think.
Yeah, Adam Foot. Yeah, Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah,
let's get the facts straight. If
but Cal Foot, wasn't he involved in that?
Yeah,
but he's not a flyer.
No, not a flyer. Devils.
Tom, what do you think, bro?
He's on the Devils.
Right.
Now, Tom, what do you think about this?
It's a very sad situation, and again, it's over there, up there in Canada. Those players, when they know you're really, really good, you get treated like a god up there. I mean, and
that's
unfortunately, nobody tells them no. I mean, nobody tells you no. Nobody there to play back. Hockey Canada looks the worst in this because it makes it look like this is another thing where they had sponsors that were backing away for them, like big sponsors, Scotiabank, Esso, Tim Hortons. They were backing away from Team Canada, and that's when suddenly Team Canada decided that they were going to investigate a little bit more, and the investigation opened up again. So it's just a sad situation all around.
Yeah, just real quick to touch it. It's not just the Sheldon Kennedy story. You talk about Theo Fleury's problems with his alcoholism. He blames a lot of it on his experiences growing up with certain coaches that he's had, and that's a sad story too. Absolutely. And I'm sure that there's plenty of kids that were billeted, lived with these families that have stories. They're 13, 14, 15 years old, living with families that aren't theirs to follow their dreams. And I'm sure that 99% of it is all on the up and up, but I'm sure there's some horror stories there that would blow your mind with stuff that they've emotionally swept under the rug. So that's the sad part in the whole thing, is that this stuff comes out and it should have been addressed right then and there. It shouldn't fester and create I don't want to use the wrong term, but a PTSD or something that you stop feeling like you're the one that was wrong because you didn't say anything. Or now
I think it's the culture. It's a terrible culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it comes down to is that, look, I mean, Andy, Tom, I know you guys much better. I mean, look, what it comes down to is look, winning creates winning, right? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about it is it's like, look, these cultures they're groomed and that type of thing. It's wrong. It's wrong. Period. There's no other way to describe it. It's wrong.
Well, I can sum it up so we can end on this one. Is if you've ever seen the movie Youngblood, great sports movie. I know it's a hockey movie. Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, great movie. But if you look at that movie, when he goes to the Hamilton Mustangs, what's the first thing they do to initiate him? What do?
It's a doctor scene.
Yep. They give him the old shave downstairs.
Yep.
You look at it and you're like, well, if this is part of the hazing or the team bonding or whatever, that's the 80s. Just imagine the stuff that they couldn't put in a movie. So another story we're going to have to, keep going. And we got, Stanley Cup's going to be starting pretty soon. We'll be talking about that road to WrestleMania, Super Bowl next week, right? We're all things we want to talk about. So, that doesn't have a Bruins logo on it, does it? Oh, so bad.
The Pizza Hut Stanley Cup. There you go.
Jeez.
Hey, be careful before you get no cheese and stuffed in your crust, buddy.
Andy, that's what a Stanley Cup looks like.
Hey, let me tell you something, brother. I don't need any stuff in my crust, because the funny thing about it is that if the pizza's good enough, I don't need any stuff in my crust.
And your crust has stuff in it, so don't worry about
it. Stuff.
So,
oh my God,
Tom, you want to bring this? We'll bring this full circle. We'll talk about our friends at Purchase Street.
Yes, absolutely. This week's album of the week is brought to you by Purchase Street Records, which is located at 53 Pope's Island, Unit 2, New Bedford, Mass. You can also visit them online at purchasestrrecords.com, and they also have a Facebook page. Purchase Street Records is Southern New England's largest independent record store.
Bang.
My pick of the week is the third pressing of Too Fast, full of Motley Crue. This is the record that started it all. I feel, next to Van Halen 1, the whole LA scene. Killer has the insert. That little scuff thing is on the plastic on the outside. Inquire if you want it. Super nice pressing. Like I said, has the insert. Third pressing. Very iconic. See you later.
Bang, bang. So, before we wrap this episode up, I thought it was a really good episode. A lot of deep dives. We haven't had a chance to do that. Now that we're at the longer format, it's gives everybody a little bit more chance to show their personality and absolutely give some really good insight into some talking points. So let me start this week with Chris. Chris, any shout outs before we leave this episode?
Yeah, we're gonna give a shout out to my little man today. All right, tore it up on the ice. I mean, scores a goal at least every game, but today was just he was out there just kicking ass. Scored a goal, made a beautiful assist from like Gretzky right behind the net, threw it out in front for a nice goal.
I want to know, is that because of the skate weights?
You know what? Let's give Power Skate the hit there on that. It's a very good possibility. He is moving his feet. He is running every other shift as a center. So we only have one other kid that does that, and he's never tired. He's hanging out there.
Coach is kid. Coach is kid.
Don't go there. Don't go there. That's not fair.
See,
it's deserved.
All political. It's all political with that organization. Damn it.
Oh, here he goes. Sourpuss. Knock it off. No, seriously. He tore it up today, so I know he watches every episode. He deserves a little shout out. The kid makes me so proud every time he goes on that ice, just giving 100%. I love to see it. He never has a shift where he's gliding around. He's out there giving it.
Hey, Chris, I'll tell you, Chris, I'll tell you what, I haven't seen him in a while, but when I run into his father, I'll give him a hug, all right?
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. Edward, you have the floor. Any shout outs this week? Right down here.
Well, I'm going to say this is finally the great one has come back, and I got nothing to say. All I have to say is that really, on a serious note, tonight was a very serious episode for us. We really never dived this deep. And
more to come, though, Ed. More to come. Oh, we got Dark Side of the Ring coming. We got all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. And I will say this: the one shout out is to the Phantom. That was a great picture of him and his wife and the boy as the assistant captain of his hockey team. They looked very happy, and I was very happy to see that.
All right, Bradford, you have the floor.
Wait. The Phantom shows his face on social media?
Oh, yeah.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
No. Bradford, take it away.
I just want to shout out one of my old Air Force buddies, Eddie. He's a huge wrestling fan. If you have a chance, look him up on Instagram. He goes by the name Cannabis Gains. When I say cannabis, you say gains. Cannabis.
Gains.
Nobody. Okay, that's his gimmick. The dude is hilarious. He's trying to build his brand around lifting and using, the Lord's spicy lettuce to get those gains. So
devil's lettuce, baby.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk shit to him. He also does Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He will beat your ass. He's also pretty strong. He's a really funny guy, really big into wrestling. So I want to shout out Cannabis Gains. Look him up on Instagram. I think if we ever brought in just a wild card guest, Andy, this guy would probably be he might be a little too much to handle.
Brad, we have an opening in the later part of February. Let's get him in here.
Yo, I think his takes on Vince and WrestleMania and stuff would be hilarious. And most of the time when he posts his stuff, he's wearing a luchador mask. So I mean, he's hilarious. Cannabis Gains, look him up on Insta. Give him a like and a follow. He's trying to kind of build out some stuff. So I'll give him a shout out today.
So from a guy that's Brad's been talking about that likes to tear up ass to Tom that likes to tear up ass. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I got a few, but first I want to say thanks to my sister Lori and my brother-in-law Tim, my niece Taylor for making this badass neon sign, 1973 bar sign. It'll be up in its permanent spot soon. I just have to get the hardware for it. Second, I want to say happy birthday, 60th birthday to my brother-in-law Tim. His birthday was this past week. Third, I want to tell the guys in my fantasy baseball pool I've been doing for 33 years. I got my first book today. So be prepared, people. I'm coming for the championship again this year. And
Nice.
fourth, AC,
I hate those books.
AC, you brought up the movie Youngblood this week in 1986. The movie was released, so it's an anniversary this week.
That's if you've never seen it, it's a great movie. It's Tea with Miss McGill, all kinds of one-liners in there, you know, all kinds of good stuff. Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves is the goalie. Yeah, there's so much good stuff. Chris, if you've never seen it, you got to watch it. Look at this. See these young guys, they don't know nothing. They're just not even on. We don't even have these guys on here for the ladies. I don't know what the hell we got these guys
I
on.
just bought a damn Pizza Hut. You're giving me shit. I bought a Pizza Hut, dude. Where are you gonna find an
Joe
old
Lyons, watch us. JoeLyons.com.
Yeah.
Smile.
So we're gonna wrap this up for this week, fellas, and then Ed's drunk already, so you know why not?
No, I know exactly.
Yeah, you're shit faced. Later,
See you guys.